Well, you get back in for the third test, but the omission that grabbed the headlines naturally was Brian O'Driscoll's. Now, if you'd been over here, you would have been astonished at the reaction because people were people lost their minds, in my opinion. People saying it's a disgrace. Gatland ought to apologise to him publicly. I said, wait a minute, no one's got a right to be a test lion. And look, he hasn't played that well. He's one of the best players post-war ever in his position, but on form. And Gatland's the coach, and he is in charge. He will carry the can, and he's going to play the one to win. Was it expected out there, or would you seem untouchable? Was there any reaction within the squad to his non-selection?
I think it was a little bit of shock because he was such a big leader in the squad and such a big part of everything that was going on. He spoke well. He'd just spoken that week about how much it meant to him to win one. He'd been a Lion all these times and he'd never won a test. He'd never won a series. And he was really a big driver of that off the field. So us as a group, I didn't see it coming. I just kind of assumed that because of the role he played in the squad, that he would be involved. And so no one knew. It happens in a meeting as Gats does it. You see it. And then you quietly walk into training to get on with the preparation for that week. And everyone's, everyone's, it's on everyone's mind. But at the same time, we've just got to get on with it. And the media storm that happened from it was outrageous and probably, the funniest thing that I can remember of this, that we can laugh about it now. I'm sure the whole experience is not fun for Brian because if it happened to me, I'd be devastated. But is on the test day, or the test day when we're in the hotel just outside the stadium, I come down to lunch and it's Gats, Farrell, Roundtree, and Howley, and they're watching those videos. It's like I think it's from the movie that the guy's playing Hitler and he's like losing it.
Yes.
But they'd had it that you're dropping Brian O'Driscoll and they were watching it and laughing over it. And I was just like, just never forget that. But at the same time, that is sport and no one's untouchable. And, you can argue rightly or wrongly if that was the right call. Gats will always say that the result justified the selection. But I also think there's a case you could go the other way too. He's one of the best players to ever play the game. But I think that was quite humbling in a squad that no one's untouchable. There've been some big decisions made. You could obviously see Gats went to tried and tested of what he knew in that third test with a strong Welsh contingent, and it paid off for him. And so, learning curve, a learning experience for everyone to be aware that there's no sort of sure bets in sport, and it keeps everyone on their toes. And I just will say, actually, the way Brian handled that, to me, it's probably one of the greatest tests of character of a legend, I think. And this guy handled it with so much grace. I think one of the key reasons we were successful in that third test is on the Thursday session before, he ran the Australia team again, like the rest of the team against us, the non-23, and they absolutely carved us up. Like he played his third test on that Thursday. Like he absolutely shredded us apart. There was O'Driscoll-esque moves. He was running it. He was bossing it in defense. He was hungry. And everyone, all of a sudden, we'd had probably our worst training session as a new team because there's been some changes on the eve of the biggest game. And I think that's what made us good because later that day, I'd done my recovery, come back down to look at some of the video analysis. And I get in there and it's Foxy, it's Jonathan Robert, it's Foxy, it's Roberts, and it's O'Driscoll sitting there and they're going through training and going through footages and O'Driscoll's actually like helping them get better for the weekend. And I honestly think that is a key catalyst of why we're successful, that big personalities park their ego for the good of the team. And I think it's incredible.
Well, I heard about that and I would expect nothing less, knowing the man as I do. I never thought it would be any different with him personally. It must have been difficult for him having to deal with the furore that was the hysteria that was whipped up on his behalf and not at his behest.